increasing for some time, particularly amongst the younger people, and particularly with regards bowel cancer. This has been going up the last few years, and I've known people who, friends of mine, have contacted me, and it's not about them; it's about their adult children who've got bowel cancer. I mean, I've had 2, 3 of these, and so this has been going on for some time. And what is the cause? I mean, you have to say the only major thing that's changed is probably diet and food. So there's a lot of speculation. Is it due to something the processed food, some chemicals in it, etc.? But there's no doubt that there's been a big change in the last 2 years where this slow increase that was coming up has started to take off. And the last 2 or 3 years, they've really increased quite dramatically around the world. I mean, in America, they were reporting up to a 40% increase in some places over what they expected. But it is, I mean, overall, I mean, you see everything from 2 to 4%, to, depending on the populations, to up to 20% of increase in cancers in young people. The one thing you can be sure, whatever the percentage is, this is real. This is continuing to become a problem, and it's not going away anytime soon. And then it's obvious thing to say, because it's accelerated in the last 2 years, is there something else that is stimulating this? And that's the question we have to ask. When people talk about the causes of cancer, I think that's quite simplistic. From my point of view, that you have an initiator of cancer, and then that can just lie there, quite well controlled by the immune system. And then you get a promoter of cancer. So that's some other irritation which allows this thing to be either escape immune control or to fuel it, to add fuel in it so the cancer takes off. And this would be why you have genetic issues with cancer, and they don't hit you till you're 40 or 50, because it's this change, this promoter. But I really do think it's beholden to be asking around the world, everyone, to say, let's have an official investigation into what is going on with this sudden increase in cancers amongst young people, particularly in the last 2 years. And when you look at it, there's plenty of people out there who've clearly said this correlates with the rollout of a COVID vaccination, and it's particularly in people of this age group. And I went public with, say, my concerns that the booster vaccine was causing marked immune perturbation, allowing escape of previously well-controlled melanomas. Well, since I flagged that up well over a year and a bit ago, people have been saying that we're seeing exactly the same. And it's not just melanoma, it's leukemias, lymphomas, renal cell cancer, and all abdominal cancers.
Yeah, now the British government, I know that in regards of heart attacks is another thing that is concerning. When you look at the statistics, heart attacks in young people, strokes. The British government, I think initially, didn't they? They started to talk about the fact, well, we had lockdowns, the ambulances were under a stretch, so people weren't getting to hospital on time. People miss their doctor's appointments, so they weren't getting diagnosed. Is that a credible argument here? I just want to kind of explore some of the things the government has been talking about in terms of why we're seeing these increased number. Could it be down to underdiagnosis?
Initially, yes, the lockdown. I mean, I went very vocal when they brought the lockdown. I said, do not do it, because for a respiratory disease, it's well known. If you do any research at all, it makes no difference. But what does make a difference, if you change the National Health Service to the National COVID Service, you're not going to be doing the screening. And this happened to a friend of mine. He had 3 screens for his condition cancelled, and he presented with the cancer that it was meant to prevent. I mean, so there's millions of people worldwide have had this delay because of the lockdown. But what is going on now, it is kind of accelerating. You'd have expected the incidents to start to settle down, but no, there's no evidence of that. And, I've supported very strongly Andrew Brinkley and bringing this to the government, saying, we must have a proper investigation in it, coming up with laying excuses. The stupidest excuse ever was from Chris Whitty, who was meant to be a chief medical officer, who suggested that all the heart attacks and everything was due to the fact that people didn't get their statins, due to commenced statins for lockdown. Well, I mean, that is an unbelievable factual statement, because you don't get statins usually until you're nearly 60 on the NHS. And we were talking then about what you just mentioned, the number of young people dropping down with heart attacks, clots of various descriptions, strokes, etc. There's no way. I mean, that was an unbelievable answer to that question. There's no way they would have ever been offered them. So that was not the answer. And we do know now that it was the vaccine program that was clearly associated with this. You can't hide it. That's why AstraZeneca was pulled. I believe all the others should have been pulled too. But I mean, as I pointed out, AstraZeneca are actually quite honourable. They did the vaccine for sort of cost plus, and they had an open book with regards to the side effects, which is why it became evident and they pulled it. The others were doing it for the shareholders, and they tried to hide all their side effects. So this is why we're in the mess we're in.
Yeah, now it is worrying, isn't it, that we've got a chief medical officer that he came out with that, didn't he, about the statins, and then of course Carl Hennigan, and I think Jefferson at Oxford no, it was Carl Hennigan by himself actually on this one. He did some analysis of the statins numbers, and he totally threw out that suggestion, absolutely disproved it. It's worrying, I think, therefore, that we've got a chief medical officer that is just coming out with stuff that is not backed by anything. Do you think that the government know full well what is going on, and essentially they just don't want to admit it because they know how angry the public will be?
Well, I really cannot fathom it out, because it's inevitable that truth will come out. And by delaying it, you make everything worse. I mean, there's a massive loss of trust in the entire government, particularly when Andrew tried to debate it, and the Prime Minister just shut him down and said everyone knows they're safe and effective when he mentioned about the vaccines. Well, everybody knows that is not the case. Everybody knows somebody who's had some form of vaccine damage. I know several, nothing to do with professional capacity. So that's clearly ridiculous. And the longer they go on, the bigger the anger is going on in the community. And it's already surfacing because people don't believe the government, or certainly the chief medical officer or SAGE or any chief science officer. They don't believe anything they say now. They realise that they've been lied again and again and again over all this. And what's happening, and I warned them at the time, unless you come through clean and you do the vaccine programme properly, which means pulling it when the side effects go up to the point where it's worse problem than the disease you're trying to prevent, they're going to not believe anything. And you're going to have people say, well, all vaccines are bad. So they're not going to have their measles and mumps and all these other things. And again, that prediction's come true.
It has come true, hasn't it? Angus, we're going to take a quick break now, but